Konsit Konmin is a Creole language initiative conceptualized by the Folk Research Center. It adopts a grassroots, community-centered approach to documentation and research and forms part of a revitalized effort to understand the evolution of culture within St. Lucian communities. Konsit Konmin aims to engage the community in an open discussion on matters tied to cultural and national development. It aims to provide a platform for communities to be heard and be connected with the FRC, to discover the unique cultural attributes of St. Lucian communities, and to promote the Creole language within the community. Comme in Laborie, nous avons une discussion sur la langue créole, attitude de développement et puis attitude qui a empêché de développer un pays ici.
Konsit Konmin is one of our Creole language activities where we thought it necessary to continue research on the Creole language. Nous j'attends vraiment cette mission plan pour faire assurer que yo extrêmement l'école créole et puis pour faire créole en langue nationale. Mais nous savons la bataille qui a empêché langue à l'école. Première question, c'est ça. À quelle situation où j'ai trouvé qu'on pilonné d'évaluer le service langue créole? In what situations have you been discriminated against? Perhaps you've got the value when you use the Creole language.
Peut-être c'est le plus, non, pas moi qui plus bon ici là, mais c'est le second mot ici là. En temps élevé, moi quand je dis, moi j'ai eu un bon expérience. Parce que malgré qu'il a mon un tout petit, c'était que tout seul de parler, mais maman, c'est une femme qui était une bonne intelligence. Il voulait apprendre l'anglais, parce que ça, les mois à l'école, et bien tout ça, c'est à 4 mois à l'école, pas de 5 ans. C'est 4 mois à l'école. So, il voulait parler anglais. So, l'été parler quand on dit patois. L'été parler qui voulait le patois pour nous. Il est vraiment répondre en anglais. Et puis, il a dit moi ces mots pour me dire. Bon, c'est vrai, puis il faut me plus moi passer. Et puis, déjà à l'école, là, il fini, il va parler anglais. So, moi, levé en tous les deux. Constellation, si vous voulez dire comme ça, ni anglais, ni patois. So, ma jeune. Et puis, moi, fais toute l'école comme ça, content lui. Mais moi, j'étais content d'écouter grand monde. Et grand monde qui a dit chaque bonne parole à Créole. Tous ces proverbes-là, nous actuellement, les chaque là. C'est toutes ces bagages ça, moi apprendre. Toutes ces leçons ça, alors, soit, les regards tirer leçons, yo dit nous, l'eau de bout, pour nous savoir c'est quand, l'eau pan, coco, l'eau couille, la vie descend. C'est, moi apprendre. So, tous les deux langues, il y a un place spécial en moi. Je dis, je vais anglais. Non, parce que toutes les livres en anglais, c'est pour apprendre anglais. Hein? Maka di mahali Creole non plus, because he wish, et puis Madame Liberté, et puis frère Cher, là où il y a un petit blague à Creole, ça a un goût, ça a tout. Vous comprenez? So, maka di pour l'autre monde, peut-être après il y a une plus.
Ma foi en Creole là, parce que moi, à 10 ans, moi, fait toute l'école, moi, j'ai su. Parce que un mot créole à la classe. Là où parler créole, il y a dit que c'est Jean Hôtel. C'est contribué. L'invitation. So, je vais parler en créole pièce. Pour les mots descendre là, moi, à l'école, je vais parler de papa, je vais parler de créole, je vais parler de et il y a oui, il y a qui est non, ma salle, c'est le gardien. Si moi, oui, la chaque là, So là, moi, là, quand on me dit, on ça qui chaque, il dit, moi, il s'accate. Moi, je vais me rassembler chaque, mais je regarde mon chaque. Mais, moi, si bien pas toi, pas ça, ça, pour ça, l'eau parler pas toi, en créole, et puis en il can être plus goût, parce que l'eau parler en anglais, ou pas ça, ça oublie en anglais. Mais, moi, le tige, il va jamais parler pas toi la caille, après créole la caille. So, il a l'école la gosse. Il a une la gosse, il y a qui créole, il a la casse. Donc, tous les jours, il a venu, puis, en différents mots, il dit ici, il dit ça, il dit ça. Mais, créole là, pour nous faire à l'école là, on dit, si japonais dit, ce qu'on nous éduquer, c'est mon qui instruit avant. Parce que moi-même, ce n'est pas tout mon parole, me connaître. Et n'a instruit mon en créole. Parce que ça l'a fait, pour une situation, on dit, nous faire chez moi aujourd'hui. Toutes ces mots paroles là qui ont fait, nous avons fait chez moi, nous avons cherché et nous avons parlé. Mais pour dire, moi, ça parle créole, conseil pour me parler. On dit, si japonais, nous avons été sauts, nous avons été toute la mer, nous avons mis les mélanges. Mais créole là, bon, moi, quoi, à souvent, nous allons aller là, pour faire ma l'école, comprendre, pas toi, pour créole. C'est bon.
Now, moi, je vais à la caille, côté maman, moi, et maman, côté, même si pas les bas en créole, on y peut répondre en anglais. Mais ça n'a pas un problème. Juste actuellement, nous n'avons pas tous les deux. Moi, je suis arrivé à même bagaille là aussi. Mais quand on dit c'est mon qui nous va manger à dire, si nous pas faire bagaille, nous ne pouvons faire bien. Et moi, l'idée, là, l'école là, côté maman là, aller, c'est l'église là. Nous savons qu'il faut pour montrer langue créole là. Primaire, moi, le petit faire l'école, les petits maman, toute maman va apprendre les manières. Si vous dites en anglais, parce que vous comprenez moins, c'est-à-dire créole. Les gens à l'école, c'est pas juste les jeunes créoles, héritage créole, toutes les affaires. Jusqu'où on a une petite exhibition, et vous comprenez pour qui ça y a servi ces bagages là. Vous avez mangé, ça nous a dit pour collation, parce que vous toujours c'est un cycle, c'est manger à une actuellement qui pas de bon. Mais vous avez dit, vous avez à l'école, pour collation, nous, mais pour manger, nous, et nous courons sur l'école, parce que ça y a pas de school fini le programme. Vous avez couru descendre manger pas de plaque là, ça m'a continué. Et pour collation, nous, ça, nous pas oublier pour le ça. Qui vont citer qui confiture, farine de coco, farine de lait, farine de cigo. Oui, en Belgique, vous pouvez mettre 50 pains et vous pouvez manger. Moi, c'est un qui est soit là, si vous voyez, vous tuez ma baille là, il y a sous l'entrée là, et vous faites bien. Nous avons commencé à cette école-là, et c'était déjà pour faire effort. Si vous avez payé nous, payer pour faire ces bagages, vous avez faire effort pour vous. Prenez aussi, et puis ça, vous tuez ma mère là aussi.
What I'm concerned about is if the language has to be taught in school, there must be a form of structure. You see, you cannot just talk anyhow. Jadi kan ibu up. Sekarang ibu apa? Kalau ibu ni workshop bagai itu train secara, soleh yo member then yo satu semai. Because bahasa bahasa umumpan. So, hindi po organize
workshop et bien manière pour aider ces teachers et de yo ça passe le travail. C'est là en toute compagnie où il est côté où il c'est en deux où parler. Mais souvent côté parmi donc côté donc associé anti-société. Il primaire pour parler pour oui pour ça va dire en créole. Donc plus confortable. Mais souvent dans l'autre côté ou dans special meeting. Et c'est pas un meeting côté où ça parle créole. Ou obligé parler anglais, là, on va se sentir confortable là. Mais là, on va parler parmi gens, nous, quatre, sentir plus confortable sur expliquer en créole.
Mais dis-moi, pour à l'occasion du pas confortable, qui côté pas confortable de parler créole?
Tout le monde côté qui monde qui parle anglais, tout seul.
Ah.
Et que va même comprendre plus ça, on va dire. By all, yoga, on va yoga du cabinet à bord. Plus on va parler et que va savoir plus ça va dire. Délai un bon bail yoga dit, mais plus on va comprendre, yoga pour pas qui bail à bord.
Si nous regardons bien, est-ce que ça, il y a longtemps, certains offices en gouvernement recognisaient que l'oreille audience, on y a clair, c'est pack of God. Si vous passez à parler que on va mettre clair. C'est pour ça parler créole, parce que laissez-vous nous sortir d'habitation, et bien même en ville, et puis on vit l'audience, et puis on est pour parler à l'audience là. Ni pour dire majestoire, qui ça on va dire, on va dire majestoire sortir dans l'autre pays, et puis il passe à comprendre ça, on va dire. So, ça important. Bon, soit les, comme on va dire, là, les conseils, il faut bien dire que ça. Parce que c'est la parole, il ne faut pas mettre dans l'autre, tout pareil qu'on a. Et puis, pour ça, expliquer ça, va juger là. Pour ça, à montrer nous, que voilà, pas que dernier, il est toujours devant la loi. Mais c'est nous à sous-côté qui ne pas comprendre bien. Par exemple, sous sorti Dominique, et moi sorti Simplicité, parce que ça il veut, et moi tiens la manière, mon collège, Babad, en l'autre madame sorti Dominique, et puis nous avons parlé à son manger. Et puis quand il dit qu'il mangeait, il plie content. L'autre monde a dit qu'il mangeait, il plie content. Et puis il dit manger, même c'est baba roulé. Il va rouler. C'est ça. Il dit,
Tout le monde, bonsoir, merci pour la musique. Moi, c'est Kalashiko. Moi, je suis d'accord avec mon japonais et aussi avec Laura. Because moi aussi, okay, sorry, Pascal. Moi, je suis en bateau, et cruise ship. Et c'est là, moi, comprendre que le langage créole là, c'est un qui a unify yon alot, ka menen nou ansan. Because ou kay an kote, ou kay adene ou jan sive pou di ou se poumye simen nou, ou pase an person an bobatwa. E kote nan moun ka di an bayan kwe, yon lan sigo, yon lan lot sel, lan set lisi a wow, you feel at home. So isi an bay identite ban nou, l'autre question, tu m'as dit about discrimination. Pour moi, je suis observé. Mais il va arriver. Moi, j'ai plus situation côté yo apprécié. Moi quand je dis ça exemple pour y travail. Adele yo do march un speech write something short. Et until linga Creole ou mette ou anti paragraphe ou check ou comprendre ça on check là fini. Il quand même tellement bouillon expliquer pourtant pli. Mais Adele c'est closing statement ou bien opening statement ou bien ti merci à puis ou check so c'est by appreciation. Troisième point, c'est pour d'autres travailleurs FRC. Moi, héritage créole. Une initiative qui bienvenue. Puisque, avec moi, ça, c'est différentes activités où tant de monde qui dit en octobre, je parler anglais. Ou bien en octobre, c'est temps pour moi faire tout bagage créole, pour les grands-papas, acheter peut-être ma grand-maman, tout ces petits oui, mais là, you know what's the name of this plant, what's the name of that plant. So ici, moi, côté moun ka get back to the roots. Roots as in original roots for Creole Heritage Month. So bien, well done, FRC.
Sous neuf en les bâtiments. Moi, ça vous forme simplement. Ça vient. C'est gens, most tout là, c'est gens qui I don't speak Creole, hein? Mais il y a neuf en les bâtiments. So, by your decision, let you realize toute l'autre nation, only one you, a parler Creole. Overnight, you sa parler Creole. Let you women, hey, ça vient. On est mon parler sa parler Creole, après on parle. Decision, on apprend. You just according to it. So, oui, c'est ça mon expérience, mais bagarre, il dit
I never spoke Creole at my home because I remember when I was younger, my father never spoke to me, but I listened to his friends, but he never spoke Creole to me. And if I responded in Creole, he would say it's disrespectful. So I think the perspective I grew up with that is negative, but when I went to school, I realized my friend saw it as something fun or intriguing, but at home it wasn't really seen that way. Not really from my grandmother, but my parents. I guess since they were younger, they saw it that way. So I think the solution in my case would be that the perspective needs to be changed because a lot of people my age at their homes they see that something negative, but outside that's the only way they can speak it.
But for me personally, I'd like to see improved access to Creole language learning. So, because I know that I've been interested in learning to write it, but I have not been aware of a resource or, some kind of, other than out of, like in terms of proximity, there's nothing accessible for me. So I'd like to see more access to Creole language learning, not just in terms of the dictionary, which is a great idea. I too have given it as gifts, but I would like some kind of class or some kind of a workshop, something that would allow us to gain greater competence, not just in speaking, but in also writing.
All of what has been said is good, and I agree with him 100%. But I would always go back on my experiences outside of St. Lucia to put perspective in St. Lucia, me living in St. Lucia, my experiences here. One of the things that I have learned or have observed in other jurisdictions where you have more of a potpourri of cultures and ethnicity, when the children, say for instance Chinese children or Japanese children or African children from whichever nation in Africa, when they go to kindergarten, most, if not all of them, do not speak English. because all they're exposed to at home is their primary language or the parents' primary language, right? And I think in St. Lucia we need what is called a re-engineering of our minds of how we accept Creole. And I listen to Annalisa, and it says, young enough to be my daughter, and I experienced that growing up. My parents didn't want me to speak Creole, especially my father. Not so much my mother, but my father did not want me to speak Creole in that house. Why? Because of his experiences as a young man growing up. So whenever he left Laborie, Laborie was okay. And even in Laborie, sometimes it was not okay. Whenever you spoke predominantly Creole, people looked at you as less educated. They look at you as second-class citizens. So the experiences were not good. So he vowed that his children would not have that experience. So they were going to speak proper English.
Another suggestion is similar to what Jason has begun. Since most businesses are now exposed to social media where we have more Creole written patois activities, words, songs, where persons can visually interact with how the words are spoken, written, and pronounced, so they can say it as well. Secondly, I don't know, those persons who are technologically inclined can prepare or design something like an app that can, when you write the word in English, can give you the Creole spelling right away or something like that. I know there is something even on Android, but as time goes along, if we can make it readily available or even advertise that this is, yes, that persons can have that on their phones just like they would have downloaded from their Play Store, TikTok or something like that. So these are two ideas. The third one, maybe it's also a fundraiser for FRC. Every year we buy or rush for diaries and we can never get enough of them as we start our new year. So just like those diaries or planners would have those things in English or quote a day or something like that, that can be done as well in Creole, written in Creole, and because hearing it is one thing, but seeing it is something different.
When we watch the news, I think we could also have this caption, Creole caption to the bottom. Various events that are being hosted. For example, FRC would probably have like Konsit Konmin going on right now. That could be something as well. So news, events, whatever we could add those captions to. And also we get those texts quite a lot from Digital Flow. If it could be bilingual, it would be a plus. So people have a choice. Like sometimes I get on my phone, you have gone for your data, or Becky Sasa, they tell you. So they could maybe put it in the same Creole, so people have a choice.
I think certainly important occasions like sittings of parliament and those kinds of things, our people need to be able to engage with those important issues and discussions. And as it is now, a very large segment of our population is being left out of some of those important discussions simply because they do not always understand what is happening because of the use of the English language as opposed to the language that they're comfortable with. So I think greater strides must be made in terms of very specifically things like the evening news. Is it possible to explore having a Creole segment, those kinds of things. And like Laura said, in terms of the sign language, making sure that sittings of parliament and other important national issues are discussed in a Creole, that there's a Creole version of it so that everybody can engage with it.
Nous paix et bien là chay moun nous langage là pas vini qu'on nous vle mais nous ka parler like comme si japonais dit il pas jamais dans la liste répondre à créole La kay mwen, ou ka pale Creole, ou ka pale patois, e pa amata, e pa ou sa pale. Mais lan le ou di maman ou be grand maman ou ba patois. Yo kay kwe ou e silte yo. Mav se manya ou ka ding, e be si se past experiences that they had, that it wasn't pleasant. So when you use those words, what is waj in English? Rich. When it's said in English, it looks well powdered. Rich. Mais là où dit à moun yon waj, yo kwa ou coupe kou yo ou sav, ou just jiwe yo asu mama yo. Right? So sometimes it's our past experiences or our limited understanding that puts this negative cloud around the Creole language. And I sometimes have fallen to that too. I remember once somebody asked me, le ou ka fè l'amou, est ou ka fè l'amou ek pale ek moun Creole? Do we do that? Do we do that? So more situations where it is used positively. Pale nou ka babye, le nou awaje, le nou ve silte amou ni berbay kousa. Or like when you shout, giving a command. But what about when it is positive? Love making, romance, being gentle, being empathetic, being understanding. We do not use the Creole language too much in those situations. It is comical because of our understanding or how we interpret it. So I don't know how we have to give citizens more positive situations for them to do that. And I'm sure these older people here, I'm wondering when they are romantic, if they spoke in the Creole language, right? So it's something we have to embrace. Il fait pas nous pour faire tout le temps, pas juste les nous fâcher, mais nous awaji.
Moi, quand je voulais qui m'a teacher Mila te dit, c'est bon, the love words in Creole because she said yes, so I think she has some experience in that. But on a more serious note, though, I have heard people say lovely things in Creole, love words, but for me it was comical because they use more descriptive phrases. So, for instance, the first time I heard somebody say, "Moi aime cococho aime labu," and I'm like, but it's a real thing, and I thought it was just, I was meant to understand it was a real thing. That's how you say. But in English, you not say "I love you" like pig love mud, But the language permits for that. Now, for you, on the other hand, that do not speak Creole at all, you understand, but you don't really speak it, it's comical, But I can totally envision all the people, by under the starlights, in the countryside.
I met you, darling.
There you go. Right, exactly. So I can, but for us, because we have a different experience, different exposure, it would sound a bit comical.
Finally, I just want to make this literal, although she's going on, I wanted to tell her. For example, literal, you spoke about the word rage, and in English, if you say rage, it don't sound too bad. But if you say unya wash, immediately the connotation. I remember it was said that a young man had insulted an older man, and the older man could have used other words, but he said to the young man, "Garçon, ou manche mwen an ti morceau la politesse." Garçon, Uma cheme timosola polites. Now, I'm sure a lot of you here don't understand it, but this is pure patois.
You miss me something. You miss me a piece of a small.
Not, it will not go like you miss me. You, la politesse means politeness. Politeness. Uma cheme. You are missing that in you. And it was so la politesse. Now people now don't use la politesse, but la politesse is a Creole word.
Just to say that language is so much more than just words. And I say it in English all the time. Language is so much more than just words. So it's not just the words that you use, but how you say it. So for instance, I was looking at Moja Panel and she was saying about when she was expressing rage and wise. So she said rage, which is not a word I really like to use because when I use it, I feel it's a little harsh, even in English. But when you say wise, you never say, only wise. Only wise. Your whole face, your whole body, it has to be tense. Your face, your mouth, your eyes, your nose, your nostrils flare, your ears are pulled back when you use the word wise. So it's a whole body experience. So I think Creole is more expressive. We are more expressive when we use it. So we can say the same thing in the same polite way that we say it in English, but because we have to put our entire bodies into it, you know, it comes across maybe harsher, funnier, more insulting, you know. So it's the language. It's more than just the words, but how we express it.
Je voulais dire merci à pile, je Laborie, j'abonne chaque information que nous avons servi. Ça c'est pour moi être Konsit Konmin qui a fait cette ici, à Gozele et puis à Laborie. Et puis c'est un commencement d'un mouvement. It's the beginning of a movement. You have given a lot of important points. I just want to touch on quickly as we wrap up. And one of the points brought up was the issue of consistency. And even Mr. Cotter's point, I don't think that having Creole productions or theater degrades the language. The issue is that we have not gone beyond theater to include more documentaries, more news. Because there was a point in time where the Government Information Service had a program, Zafenutut, that was completely in Creole. But even the segmentation of saying that you have English news and Creole news, why can't the news incorporate both? Because at the end of the day, you're still saying that one has greater priority, that you're going to do the main news first, which is English, and thereafter you do the Creole. So there needs to be a greater push to have them combined, so that if you do a news story and the person is speaking predominantly in Creole, why can't the reporter do the news item in Creole with English subtitles? So even our approach to how we see news and how things are done can be an improvement. We see, for example, on different television networks, there are Creole news programs which are good. BOSL, for example, I'm not sure if you've ever entered the ATM and you put in your card, Merci appeal pour faire business epino. These are little steps, but they have to go a lot further, not just with one bank, but with many banks. We spoke about vocabulary loss, and it comes back to something that's outside of discussing just the Creole language, but the importance of writing. We are an oral people. We share traditions by speaking and through memory. So what has happened to us over a period of time? Now, if you don't write down the words, and the persons who have used the words have passed away, how can you keep it? So oral tradition is beautiful, but you must write as well. You must document so you can come back to it. And that is why when some of you were scared to use the mic, I want to hear your voice. I want to hear the story, because the story gives a particular context so we can understand. So somebody studying and looking back 10 years from now can say, oh, ma pense pour wezo sala you can serve mo sala pour tell money, and you don't create aspects of the story of the Creole language that are not accurate or effective. Language expression and context was also a very important point some persons had highlighted, and I want to talk about it too. Even when you say
Moi, Kosho Emelapo. We are rural people, predominantly coming from a farming area. Somebody in another context in the United States, in England, may not use this expression because it does not fit their social and cultural reality. So, looking at cultural and social change, how our society has evolved, the context and understanding of how we would use some Creole terms right now does not fit the experiences of people who've never had. We've never seen a pig in mud to understand, oh, so Lamon de yo Kokosho Emelapu. That's a lot of love, you know. You know how much pigs love mud? If you've never seen an animal in that context, then it would seem strange to you. So even now, so when we share expressions with people, because they don't have that context and that experience, it is lost on them as well, because language carries so much about identity, history, where you come from, the kind of background that you are in. And so we want to continue to push it forward. Interestingly, I didn't hear anybody speak about legislation to make sure that it is taught and instructed properly, even in terms of policy within schools, how you teach it, how it is taught. All of these things are critical to ensure that nous n'y croyons là tout partout. Mais dernier bagay moi vle dire encore, moi vle dire merci à pile pour toute information au Jaban. And a point that was raised that we also want to encourage as a Folk Center is teaching of the language. And we plan to not end here as we've started Konmin, but we want to find out from you later on. Are you interested in being taught, in participating in a workshop so that you can learn the language as well? And we are interested in facilitating that at a time that is convenient to you. We believe the language is a beautiful thing. Tout ça, ça dit qui bon à ce là, nous d'accord pour, mais nous savons responsabilité pour pousser le langage là, c'est ça nous toutes. And I am hoping that those of you who have experienced Konsit Konmin, those who are watching, will see this aired on television, will make a greater effort, not just to have the conversations in your homes and families about how we have taught the language in positive ways, how we kept it away from our children ourselves and made others feel a particular way, but how we can get resources at the Folk Research Center, online through Jason Joseph's program, how we can lobby our policymakers, because we lobby them for jobs and for roads, but when do we lobby them for culture being on the ballot box? So mete kilti la ou ka mete ti kwa ou fa asire ki Creole c'est la langue nationale à cette ici. So these are the ways we want to shape and to move the conversation. We thank you for your support. As a people, if we do not work together, we cannot accomplish anything. So we continue to encourage all St. Lucians to come together to advance the Creole language. Our theme for this year is Kilti se Jewizon, et nous avons Creole là, pas Jewi, il se Jewizon aussi. Merci à pile.
Just at Nissi, nous voulons changer. Creole, c'est a langue. Creole is a language.
Chantez!